Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that your life is not going the way you planned. The goals you were chasing suddenly feel unclear. The work you believed in now feels uncertain. Even some relationships in your life may be changing. For a moment, you may feel like you are standing on an empty road with no signs telling you where to go. Part of you wants to keep moving forward, but another part of you does not know which direction is right. This is something many people experience at least once in their lives. Sometimes a relationship ends. Sometimes an important opportunity disappears. Sometimes many small disappointments slowly add up over time. And then you quietly ask yourself a difficult question. Is it possible to start again? But here is something important to remember. Rebuilding your life does not start with a perfect plan. You do not need to understand everything right away. Most real change begins in a very simple way. It begins with one small step. Just one small decision to keep moving forward, even if the path is not clear yet. Let me share a simple story. A few years ago, I knew someone who felt like his life had stopped moving forward. His plans had failed, his confidence was low, and every day felt heavy. At first, he spent a lot of time thinking about the past. He kept remembering his old mistakes. He often thought, if only I had done things differently. The more he thought about the past, the more stuck he felt. One evening, he decided to take a quiet walk outside. The street was calm and the air was cool. While walking, he noticed a building under construction. Many parts of the building had been removed. The walls were unfinished, and the place looked messy. At first, it looked like the building was being destroyed. But after watching for a moment, he realized something important. The workers were not destroying the building. They were rebuilding it. They were removing the weak parts so the structure could become stronger. Suddenly, he had a different thought. Maybe his life was not completely broken. Maybe it was simply under reconstruction. From that moment, he stopped asking, "Why did everything fall apart?" Instead, he asked a simpler question. What is one small step I can take today? Sometimes rebuilding your life begins in a very quiet moment. It is not a dramatic change, and it is not a perfect plan. It is simply a moment when you stop, look at your life honestly, and say something important to yourself. From now on, I don't want to live like this anymore. No one else may notice that moment. There is no applause and no one congratulates you. But inside you, something changes. You realize that if everything stays the same, your life will stay the same too. Even if you do not know exactly what the future will look like, you still make one clear decision. You decide to start changing your life little by little. Maybe you begin by taking better care of yourself. Maybe you let go of a habit that is hurting you. Or maybe you simply decide to stand up one more time after many disappointments. These decisions may look small, but they mark an important turning point. From that moment on, you are no longer waiting for life to change. You are the one who begins to change it. And once you make that decision, something interesting happens. The path may not become easy, but it becomes clearer. Instead of worrying about fixing your whole life at once, you start focusing on something much simpler. The next small step. Imagine you are climbing a very high mountain. If you keep looking at the top all the time, the distance may feel overwhelming. You might feel tired and you might want to give up. But experienced climbers often do something different. They focus on the next step. Just one more step. Then another step. And after many small steps, They finally reach the top of the mountain. Rebuilding your life is very similar. You do not need to see the entire path from the beginning. You only need to take the next step. When life feels messy or uncertain, the first goal is not success. The first goal is stability. Stability often begins with simple daily routines. For example, you might start by waking up at the same time every day. You might take a short walk outside and allow your mind to relax. You might sit quietly with a cup of coffee instead of rushing into the day. These actions may look small, but they slowly bring order back into your life. When your daily life becomes calmer, your mind becomes calmer too. Think of it like rebuilding a house. Before you decorate the rooms or paint the walls, you must rebuild the foundation. Small daily habits become the foundation of a new life. But rebuilding your life is not only about routines. It is also about how you treat yourself. Many people remain stuck in the past because they keep blaming themselves. They repeat old mistakes again and again in their minds and begin to believe those mistakes define who they are. But mistakes are not permanent labels. They are lessons. Every person who has rebuilt their life has something in common. At some point, they stop punishing themselves for the past and start learning from it instead. Self-forgiveness does not mean ignoring your mistakes. It means accepting that you are human and understanding that growth often comes through difficult moments. When you forgive yourself, something powerful happens. You stop looking backward, and you finally give yourself permission to move forward again. Another important part of rebuilding your life is protecting your attention. When people feel lost, they often compare themselves with others. They see someone else's success and feel discouraged. But comparison steals your energy. Instead of asking, "Why is their life better than mine?" you can ask a simpler question. What small thing can I improve today? Maybe you learn something new. Maybe you build one healthy habit. Maybe you spend less time on things that drain your energy. Over time, these small improvements grow, and slowly your life begins to change. So if your life feels uncertain right now, remember this. You do not need to rebuild everything today. You do not need a perfect plan. You only need to take the next small step. Maybe that step is resting and giving your mind some space. Maybe it is starting a new habit. Maybe it is simply deciding not to give up on yourself. Because rebuilding a life rarely happens in one dramatic moment. It happens quietly. One decision. One small action. One better day at a time. And one day, maybe months or years from now, you may look back and realize something surprising. The life you thought was falling apart was actually the beginning of the life you were meant to build. Thank you for listening. And remember, even when life feels uncertain, you are always allowed to begin again. Have you ever had a day when nothing big happened, but you still felt like you were about to break down? One message you have not replied to. One unfinished task. A messy room. A bill to pay. A conversation still in your head. Someone replying more slowly than usual. A bad night of sleep. None of these things feels very serious on its own. But by the middle of the day, you feel more tense, more tired, and more easily upset. Then one small thing happens, and suddenly it feels like too much. If you have ever felt this way, it does not mean you are weak or overreacting. It may simply mean that your mind is already too full. This is a quiet problem in modern life. Many people are not exhausted because of one big crisis. They are exhausted because their minds never get a real break. There is always something coming in. A notification, a short video, bad news, pressure, comparison, worry. Even small things can take your energy when they keep coming all day. It is like having too many tabs open on a computer. At first, everything still works. Then it slows down. Then it starts to freeze. The human mind can feel the same way. Psychologists call this cognitive overload. It means your brain is carrying too much at once. That is why even small problems can feel very heavy. Not because they are so serious, but because you already have too much inside you. That is why slow internet can suddenly make you angry. One careless comment can stay in your mind for hours. One more question can feel overwhelming. Sometimes the moment is not the real problem. Sometimes your mind was already full before it happened. And when your mind is too full, you stop seeing clearly. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels personal. Everything feels like something you must fix right away. This is also when we fall into another trap. We focus too much on what we do not want. The more you fear something, the more space it takes in your mind. If you are afraid of forgetting something, you keep thinking about it. If you are afraid someone no longer cares, you start noticing every small change. And that only makes you feel more tired. This does not mean that bad things happen just because you think about them. But what you focus on can grow inside your mind. You think about it more. You react to it more. And slowly, it becomes heavier. When your mind is already full, focusing too much on what you fear makes it harder to see what you need to heal and what you need to let go of. That is why sometimes what we need is not to try harder or control everything more. Sometimes what we really need is a pause. Pausing is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is a way to return to yourself. Sometimes what you need is not more advice, more pressure, or more effort. Sometimes you just need space. A quiet moment where you do not need to reply, explain, fix, or prove anything. Because clarity comes when the noise starts to settle. It comes when you stop fighting every thought and every feeling. And here is a simple way to begin. Once a day, if possible, give yourself 20 minutes with no phone, no notifications, and no screens. Do not scroll. Do not multitask. Just sit quietly, walk slowly, or look out of a window. You do not need to solve your whole life in that moment. You do not need to force yourself to feel calm. You only need to notice what is there. Notice what comes up when nothing is distracting you. What thoughts return? What feelings rise? Maybe it is fear. Maybe it is a memory. Maybe it is a person you still think about. Maybe it is a sadness you have been too busy to feel. Just notice that it is there. Not every thought needs an answer. Not every feeling needs an explanation. Not everything inside you needs to be fixed right away. At first, this pause may feel uncomfortable. Your mind may feel louder before it feels quieter. You may feel restless. You may want to check your phone after only a few minutes. But that does not mean it is not helping. It may simply mean that, after a long time, you are finally hearing what has been inside you all along. And if you stay with it, something begins to change. You start to see patterns. You begin to notice which worries are real and which ones are just habits in your mind. You begin to understand that some of your tiredness does not only come from life around you, but also from the constant noise inside you. Many people do not notice this kind of tiredness. It is the tiredness of always arguing in your own mind. Why did they say that? Why am I like this? What if things get worse? What if I made the wrong choice? Why can I not let this go? When this goes on for too long, silence feels strange. Peace feels far away. Not because peace is gone, but because the inner noise has become so normal. But if you keep giving yourself these quiet pauses, something beautiful can happen. The need to keep arguing starts to soften. The noise in your mind becomes quieter. And in that space, peace can slowly enter. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Real strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is the courage to pause. The courage to be honest with yourself. The courage to say, "My mind is too full and I need space." Maybe you are not failing. Maybe you are just tired. Tired of thinking. Tired of reacting. Tired of trying to hold everything together in a world that never seems to slow down. And sometimes healing does not begin when you find the perfect answer. Sometimes it begins when you finally give yourself permission to stop. So maybe this is the reminder you need today. You do not need to wait until you are completely exhausted before you rest. You do not need to explain why you need quiet. You do not need to reach your breaking point before you step back and breathe. Tomorrow, if you can, give yourself 20 quiet minutes. No phone. No pressure. No need to do it perfectly. Just be honest enough to notice what is inside you. And if, in that quiet moment, you hear yourself a little more clearly, then the pause has already done its work. As we close this episode, remember this. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to move at your own pace. Growth does not always look big or dramatic. Sometimes the most important change happens quietly when no one is watching. When you stop running from yourself and start listening. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope the days ahead feel a little softer. I hope your mind feels a little lighter. And I hope you remember that even in stillness, you are still moving forward. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. This is a famous quote often attributed to the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. When I first read this sentence, it sounded simple, almost too simple. But the more I thought about it, the more meaningful it became. Nature does not rush. Trees do not rush to grow. The sun does not rush to rise. The seasons do not rush to change. And yet everything still moves forward. But human life often feels very different. Many of us live as if everything must happen quickly. We hurry through our mornings, rush through our work, and move from one task to another. Even when we are resting, our mind is still running, thinking, planning, worrying. After some time, something strange begins to happen. We start feeling tired even when we are not doing anything physically difficult. The body is sitting, but the mind never stops moving. That is why many people today are searching for something different. Not more speed, not more productivity, but more peace. And this is where the idea of slow living begins. Let me ask you a simple question. When was the last time you truly slowed down, even for just a moment, without feeling like you should be doing something else? Maybe drinking a cup of tea and actually tasting it without reaching for your phone. Maybe taking a quiet walk and noticing the air around you instead of thinking about tomorrow's tasks. Maybe sitting still for a few minutes and simply breathing. For many people, these moments have become surprisingly rare. Because modern life often feels like a race that never really stops. We wake up and immediately check our phones. Messages, notifications, plans for the day. Then we move quickly from one task to another. Work responsibilities, more messages, more things to finish. Even when the day is full, the mind keeps running, already thinking about the next thing. And without realizing it, we begin to move through our lives faster and faster, rarely pausing long enough to notice the moments that are actually happening right in front of us. Most of us say that we want to live a happy life. We work hard, make plans, and chase goals that we believe will bring us happiness one day. But very few people stop to notice something important. Happiness is often not found far away in the future. It is usually hidden inside very small moments of everyday life. A quiet morning when the air feels fresh. The first sip of coffee that warms your hands. A short walk while the sky slowly changes color in the evening. A simple conversation with someone you care about. Or even a few peaceful minutes when your mind feels calm. These moments may look ordinary, and because they are ordinary, we often ignore them. Our attention is usually somewhere else. We are busy thinking about the next goal, the next task, the next big achievement. While we are running towards something far away, many small moments of happiness quietly pass by. But a happy life is rarely created by one big event. It is created by many small moments like these, appearing again and again throughout our days. One peaceful moment becomes another. Many small moments become a day that feels meaningful. And many days like that slowly form the larger picture of a happy life. Slow living invites us to try something different. It is not about moving slowly all the time. And it definitely does not mean being lazy or giving up your goals. Slow living simply changes the way you move through your day. Instead of rushing from one thing to another, you start paying attention to what you are actually doing. When you drink your coffee, you taste it. When you walk somewhere, you notice the street, the air, the people around you. When you talk to someone, you are really there instead of thinking about the next task. Nothing in your schedule has to change dramatically. But the way you experience your day begins to change. And that small shift can make life feel calmer, clearer, and surprisingly more meaningful. Let me share a small story. A few years ago, someone told me about a simple habit he started. Every morning he used to drink coffee very quickly while checking emails on his phone. He barely noticed the taste. He barely noticed the morning. One day he decided to try something different. He left his phone in another room. He sat down quietly with his coffee. And for the first time in a long time, he actually noticed the moment. The warmth of the cup. The quiet of the morning. The sunlight coming through the window. Nothing dramatic happened. But something small changed. For those few minutes his mind was calm. And that moment slowly became the most peaceful part of his day. That is the spirit of slow living. Not changing your whole life overnight. Just changing how you experience small moments. Because the truth is, life is not only made of big achievements. Life is mostly made of ordinary moments. Walking somewhere. Eating a meal. Talking with a friend. Watching the sky in the evening. But when we move too fast, we miss those moments. Our mind is always in the future, thinking about the next task, the next problem, the next responsibility. Slow living gently brings your attention back to now. To this moment. To the small details of everyday life. And something interesting happens when you slow down. Your mind becomes quieter. Your breathing becomes deeper. Problems that once felt overwhelming begin to feel more manageable. Because peace rarely appears in a rushing mind. Peace usually appears in a present mind. Of course, slowing down is not always easy. Many people worry that if they slow down, they will fall behind. But slow living is not about doing less. It is about doing things with intention. Instead of doing many things at once, you focus on one thing. Instead of filling every minute with noise, you allow small spaces of quiet. Instead of always chasing the next moment, you allow yourself to live inside this one. Over time, these small changes create something powerful. Your mind becomes calmer. Your attention becomes clearer. And your life begins to feel less rushed. Not perfect, but more peaceful. So if you want to try slow living, start with something very small. You do not need to change your entire schedule. Just choose one moment in your day. Maybe your morning coffee. Maybe your walk home. Maybe the few minutes before you go to sleep. During that moment, slow down. Put your phone away. Breathe. Notice what is around you. Notice what is happening inside you. Because sometimes peace is not something we need to search for. Sometimes peace is already here. We just need to slow down enough to notice it. Most people think the biggest problem in life is failure. But surprisingly, failure is not the problem for many people. The real problem is distraction. Every day our attention is pulled in many directions. We look at what other people are doing. We compare our progress with theirs. We wonder why they seem faster, more successful, or more confident. Slowly our focus moves away from our own life. And without realizing it, we spend more time thinking about other people's progress than building our own. But here is something important to understand. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you have. It works like sunlight. Wherever sunlight shines, things begin to grow. If sunlight shines on a plant, the plant grows. If it shines on a tree, the tree grows stronger. Your attention works the same way. Whatever you focus on begins to grow in your life. If you focus on problems all day, problems begin to feel bigger. If you focus on other people's success, comparison begins to grow. But if you focus on your own learning and effort, your progress begins to grow. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Not more, not less. The difference is how we choose to use that time and where we place our attention. Some people spend many hours worrying about other people's success, comparing their lives, or thinking about negative thoughts. When our attention stays on these things, they slowly grow stronger in our mind. Problems feel bigger. Doubts become louder. But our attention can also be used in a different way. When we choose to focus on learning, practicing, and improving ourselves, something powerful begins to happen. Our skills grow. Our confidence grows. Our life slowly begins to move forward. Time itself is neutral. It simply passes minute by minute, day by day. But the direction of our life depends on what we focus on during that time. It is important to understand something here. Looking at successful people is not a bad thing. In fact, it can be very helpful. When we see someone who is doing well, we can learn from their habits, their discipline, and the way they improve over time. We can study how they practice, how they stay consistent, and how they handle challenges. That kind of attention can inspire us and give us direction. But there is a big difference between learning from someone and becoming lost in their life. Many people spend hours analyzing every detail about other people's success, their lifestyle, or their personal choices. They talk about it, compare it, and sometimes even criticize it. But none of that helps us grow. The real value is not in watching their life closely. The real value is in asking one simple question. What can I learn from this? And how can I apply it to my own life? That is why attention is so important. When you change what you focus on, you slowly change what your mind begins to see. And when your attention changes, the direction of your life can begin to change as well. When you keep focusing on negative things, your mind starts looking for more negative things. If you think something will go wrong, you notice every small problem. A small mistake suddenly feels very big. After a while, it can feel like bad luck keeps following you. But often it is not luck. It is simply where your attention is going. Your mind keeps seeing more of what it is already looking for. That is why attention is so important. When you change what you focus on, you slowly change what your mind begins to see. And that can change the direction of your life. Imagine holding a small magnifying glass under the sun. When sunlight passes through the glass, the light becomes stronger and more focused. In fact, it can become powerful enough to create heat. Focus works in the same way. When your attention is scattered everywhere, your energy becomes weak. But when your attention is focused in one direction, your energy becomes powerful. This is why people who achieve great things often share one simple habit. They protect their focus. They are not perfect. They are not always the most talented. But they choose where to place their attention. Instead of constantly watching what others are doing, they ask themselves a different question. What is the most important thing I can improve today? Let me share another simple story. Two gardeners planted seeds on the same day. The first gardener spent a lot of time walking around the neighborhood looking at other gardens. Some gardens had taller plants. Some had brighter flowers. Every time he saw them, he felt discouraged. He kept thinking that his plants were growing too slowly. Because he spent so much time worrying about other gardens, he sometimes forgot to water his own. The second gardener did something different. Every morning he quietly watered his plants. He pulled out the weeds and gave the soil time. At first his garden looked small and simple, nothing special compared to the others. But week after week he kept taking care of it. After some time, something interesting happened. The first gardener still had a garden full of half-grown plants, because his attention was always somewhere else. But the second gardener slowly began to see healthy flowers growing everywhere. Not because his seeds were better, but because his attention was in the right place. And this is how growth often works in life. The more time we spend looking at other people's gardens, the less time we spend taking care of our own. Real progress usually grows quietly when we give our attention to our own effort instead of constant comparison. Another helpful way to understand this is to imagine your mind as a camera lens. When a camera lens is out of focus, the picture becomes blurry. You cannot clearly see what is important. But when the lens becomes sharp and focused, everything becomes clear. Your mind works the same way. When your attention jumps from one person to another, from one comparison to another, your thinking becomes blurry. But when you bring your focus back to yourself, your direction becomes clearer. You begin to see your next step. You begin to see what you can improve. And most importantly, you begin to trust your own path. If you want to try something simple today, here is a small exercise. For the next 24 hours, try to notice when your mind starts comparing your life with someone else's life. When this happens, gently bring your attention back and ask yourself one simple question. What is one small step I can take today? Maybe you practice a skill for 10 minutes. Maybe you read a few pages of a book. Maybe you simply finish a task you have been avoiding. Small actions may not look impressive, but they move your life forward. When you repeat these small actions day after day, something powerful begins to happen. Your confidence grows. Your progress becomes visible. and your attention becomes calmer. One day you may realize something surprising. The life you wanted was never built by watching others. It was built quietly, step by step, by focusing on your own path. So remember this simple idea. Your attention is like sunlight. Wherever you place it, growth begins. If you place it on comparison, comparison grows. But if you place it on your own learning and effort, your life begins to grow in the direction that truly belongs to you. Have you ever wondered if a single sentence could quietly change the direction of your life? Sometimes it can. A teacher says, "You're not very talented." A friend jokes, "You're too quiet to lead." Someone in your family once tells you, "People like you don't succeed at things like that." At the moment, these sentences may seem small, but the human mind is powerful. When we hear something about ourselves many times, we slowly begin to believe it. And when we believe it, we start living as if it were true. Hi, my friend, and welcome back to the Heal and Grow podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something simple but deeply important: the labels we carry about ourselves, and why believing in your own potential is often more powerful than believing the opinions around you. In psychology, there is a concept called self-fulfilling prophecy. It means that when people believe something strongly enough, their actions slowly begin to make that belief come true. For example, imagine a student who believes, "I'm bad at math." Because of that belief, the student studies less. They avoid difficult problems. They feel nervous during tests. And slowly, their results become worse. Not because they were incapable, but because the belief shaped their behavior. The belief came first. The result came later. This happens to many people in life. Sometimes a label becomes a quiet script that guides the way we live. And here is something I truly want you to remember. Believe me, you are much more capable than you think. Many people stop too early. Not because they cannot do something, but because they believe they cannot. If you do not allow those inner limits and outside labels to stop you, you may discover abilities you never knew you had. If we look at history, many great achievements happened because someone refused to believe the limits others gave them. For example, more than 100 years ago, most people believed that humans could never fly. But two brothers, Wilbur and Orville Wright, believed it was possible. They kept experimenting, and eventually they built the first airplane. Another example is the mobile phone. Many years ago, the idea that people could carry a phone in their pocket and talk to anyone in the world sounded impossible. Yet someone believed it could be done. And today it is a normal part of our lives. Your mind works in a similar way. When you truly believe in your potential, your brain begins to search for ways to make that belief real. Step by step, it looks for solutions, opportunities, and new paths. And one day, the things that once felt impossible may slowly become possible. I once knew someone who loved drawing when he was a child. He would spend hours sketching characters and landscapes. But one day a teacher casually told him, "You're not very talented at art." The teacher probably forgot about that sentence the next day, but the student didn't. Slowly, he stopped drawing. He told himself, "I'm just not a creative person." Years later, he said something that stayed with me. He said, "I don't know if I'm actually bad at art, or if I just stopped trying too early." Take a moment and think about this. How many things that other people said about you were completely true? In most cases, people are only sharing their opinions, their fears, or their own experiences. They say things like, "You can't do that," or "This is too hard for you." But those are only their thoughts. Believing those words or not is always your choice. If you accept every limiting belief that others give you, you slowly begin to build invisible walls around yourself. You may start thinking you are not capable, not smart enough, or not strong enough. But the truth is, you are much more capable than you think. Just look back at your own life for a moment. Think about the challenges you once believed were impossible. Yet somehow you moved through them. You learned new things, you became stronger, and little by little you found your way forward. Every difficulty helped you grow into the person you are today. So don't let other people's doubts become your limits. Remember this, you are still learning, still growing, and still capable of becoming far more than you can imagine. Sometimes the greatest loss in life is not failure. It is the possibility we never explored. And this is why labels can be dangerous. They are often just opinions at one moment in time. But when we repeat them in our minds for years, they begin to feel like facts. Society is full of these labels. People say extroverts are confident. Quiet people are shy. Successful people always have perfect grades. Smart people never fail. But real life is rarely that simple. Some quiet people are deep thinkers and strong leaders. Some students who struggled in school later build incredible careers. Some talents appear early. Others appear much later in life. Human potential does not follow a strict schedule. Sometimes it grows slowly, quietly, and unexpectedly. Think about it this way. A label is like a small box. Once we step inside that box, we stop exploring the rest of the room. But life is much bigger than that box. You are bigger than the label someone once gave you. And sometimes the first step toward freedom is simply asking one question. Is this belief really true about me? Or is it just something I believed for a long time? Maybe someone once told you, "You're too quiet. You're not confident. You're not talented." But those words were only opinions at a moment of time. They are not the final story of your life. The truth about who you are is still being written every single day. With every skill you learn, every challenge you face, and every time you try again, you are not a finished product. You are a work in progress. So if there is a label you have been carrying for many years, maybe today is a good moment to look at it again. Ask yourself, is this label helping me grow or quietly holding me back? If it is holding you back, you do not need to fight it. You can simply begin to step beyond it. Because believing in your potential is often the first step toward creating it. And before we end today's episode, I want to ask you one simple question. What is one label you have believed about yourself for many years that may no longer be true today? If you feel comfortable, share it in the comments. Sometimes the moment we question a label is the moment we begin to outgrow it. Have you ever paused for a moment, looked at your life, and felt that something inside you has quietly grown bigger than the life around you? Maybe your job no longer feels right. Your daily routines no longer excite you the way they used to. The way you think and live no longer reflects the person you feel yourself becoming. If you have ever felt this way, remember one important thing. You are not lost. You are growing. You are entering a new chapter of your life. A chapter where something inside you is asking for a life that feels more true, more meaningful, and more aligned with who you really are. In this episode, we will slowly walk through a simple 5-step journey. A journey to release what no longer fits your life, reconnect with who you truly are, and gently build a life where you feel calmer, freer, and more alive. So, let's begin. Before changing your life, start by noticing the energy you are living in. Energy is not just positive thinking or good vibes the way people usually describe it. Energy is everything around you every day. It is the place where you live, the work you do, the people you spend time with, and even the thoughts that repeat again and again in your mind. Energy is the feeling you carry when you wake up in the morning. It is the atmosphere in the room where you spend most of your time. It is the emotion you feel when you talk with someone. And it is also the feeling that stays with you after the conversation ends. Do you feel lighter and peaceful, or do you feel strangely tired and drained? Everything around you carries energy, and whether you notice it or not, your mind and your body are constantly absorbing it. So before you try to change anything big in your life, pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple question. What kind of energy am I living in right now? Does my environment support me, or does it slowly drain me? When you begin to see this clearly, something important happens. You start understanding what truly nourishes you and what may no longer belong in your life. Once you begin to notice the energy around you, the next step becomes clearer. Sometimes the reason we feel stuck is not because we are weak or unmotivated. It is simply because the environment around us no longer supports our growth. Just like plants need healthy soil to grow, people also need the right environment. You cannot grow in a place that no longer nourishes you. Every space, every person, and every habit carries its own energy. Think about the places you visit in your daily life. Some places make you feel calm the moment you arrive. But there are also places where the moment you step in, you feel a quiet heaviness inside your chest. People are the same. There are people who make you feel relaxed and comfortable every time you talk with them. And there are others who leave you feeling tired after every conversation, even when nothing obviously bad happened. Your body often senses these things long before your mind explains them. So if you want to reinvent your life, start by gently changing your environment. You do not need dramatic changes. Small shifts can already make a big difference. Work from a different cafe one day. Rearrange your desk. Clean your room. Open the windows and let sunlight enter your space. Spend more time in places that feel calm. And slowly reduce the time you spend with people who constantly drain your energy. Very often a new chapter in life begins with a simple realization. This environment no longer fits the person I am becoming. And that realization is not something to fear. It is actually a sign that you are growing. The next step in this journey is learning to let go. Over the years, we collect many things in our lives. Habits, beliefs, ways of thinking, expectations from other people, and even old versions of ourselves. Some of these once protected us. Some once helped us survive difficult moments. But as we grow, not everything continues to fit the life we are moving toward. Letting go is a little like cleaning a room that is slowly filled up with things from the past. If changing your environment cleans the outside world, letting go cleans the inside world. Think about old clothes. They were perfect for a certain time in your life. But as you grow, they simply no longer fit the person you are becoming. The same thing happens with thoughts, habits, and relationships. Some ideas once helped you feel safe, but now they may hold you back. Some habits once protected you, but now they may keep you stuck in your comfort zone. Some relationships were once very close, but now you may realize that you are walking on different paths. And that is a completely natural part of life. People change. Energy changes. Priorities change. Growth is simply part of being alive. So ask yourself gently, is there something in my life that I am holding on to only because I am afraid to lose it? Is there a relationship I keep out of habit even though I cannot truly be myself there? Is there a belief about myself that once protected me but now limits who I can become? Letting go does not mean you are rejecting your past. It simply means you are being honest about your future. When you begin letting go of what no longer fits your life, something surprising happens. You start to feel space again. Space to breathe. Space to think clearly. Space for something new to grow. But here is something important to remember. You cannot create a new life while thinking exactly the same way you always have. A different life requires different thinking. When your thinking changes, your choices begin to change as well. And when your choices change, your life slowly begins to move in a new direction. So start asking yourself new questions. How would the better version of me think about this situation? How would the calmer version of me respond right now? How would the confident version of me act today? You do not need to transform everything overnight. Real change usually begins with very small shifts. A slightly better thought. A healthier habit. A calmer reaction in a stressful moment. A clearer boundary with something that drains you. These small changes may look insignificant at first, but over time they slowly shape the person you are becoming. Because the version of you that you want to become is not somewhere far away. That version of you already exists quietly inside you. You are simply learning how to live more like that person through the choices you make each day. And this leads to one of the most important realizations in personal growth. Many people think they must feel ready before they change their life. But in reality, change often works in the opposite direction. You do not wait to feel confident before you speak. You speak and confidence slowly grows. You do not wait to feel capable before learning something new. You start learning and capability begins to grow. You do not wait to become disciplined before taking action. You take small actions every day, and discipline slowly builds. Your new self is not created by thinking about change. Your new self is created by the small ways you choose to live every day. It appears in the habits you repeat, the decisions you make, and the quiet moments when you pause and ask yourself a simple question. What would the better version of me do right now? And every time you follow that answer, even in a small way, you are slowly rebuilding your life. Great lives are rarely built in one dramatic moment. They are built through small choices repeated day after day. One better decision today. Another tomorrow. Over time, these small choices quietly shape an entirely new version of you. Before you finish listening to this episode, take a quiet moment to reflect on your own life. Ask yourself honestly, am I living in an environment that truly supports who I am becoming, or am I staying in a place that slowly drains my energy? Remember this. Every single day gives you a new chance to move closer to the person you want to become. And sometimes the next chapter of your life begins with something very small. A new thought. A small decision, or the quiet courage to admit that you have grown, and that it may be time for your life to grow with you. Can someone really fix their entire life in just one day? Think about that for a moment. If your life feels messy, if there are problems in your career, your habits, your confidence, or your relationships, can all of that really be fixed in 24 hours? Most people would immediately say no. And in one sense, they are right. You cannot build a successful career in one day. You cannot become confident overnight. You cannot heal every wound or solve every problem in just a few hours. Real change usually takes time. It takes practice. It takes patience. But here is the interesting part. There is something about your life that can change in a single day. Not your entire situation, but the direction of your life. Imagine a ship in the middle of the ocean. The ship has been sailing in the wrong direction for days, maybe even months. It may already be hundreds of kilometers away from where it wanted to go. But to change its future, the captain does not need to rebuild the ship. He does not need to cross the entire ocean again in one day. He only needs to do one small thing. He turns the wheel just a few degrees. The movement takes only seconds. But from that moment on, the ship is no longer heading toward the wrong destination. It is heading somewhere new. Human lives work in a surprisingly similar way. Many people believe that changing their life requires a huge transformation. They imagine dramatic moments like quitting their job, moving to a new country, or completely reinventing themselves overnight. But very often, real change begins with something much smaller. A decision. A clear and quiet decision that happens in one day. For example, someone may spend years procrastinating. Every day they tell themselves, I will start tomorrow. I am not ready yet. I am not good enough. But one day something inside them shifts. Maybe they wake up and think, enough. I am tired of waiting. They open their notebook. They start the project. They begin learning the skill. That day did not magically make them successful, but that day changed the direction of their life. Or imagine someone who has believed for years that they are not talented. Maybe a teacher once told them they were not creative. Maybe they failed once and decided they were just not the kind of person who could succeed. So they stopped trying. Years later, they might look back and ask themselves a quiet question. Was I actually bad at it, or did I just stop too early? And sometimes that single question can change everything. Because suddenly the story they have believed about themselves no longer feels completely true. That moment may last only a few minutes, but it opens a door. And once that door is open, a new version of their life becomes possible. Think about people who quit harmful habits. Many smokers spend 10 or 20 years telling themselves they will stop someday. But there is usually one very specific day when something changes inside their mind. They say a simple sentence, I am done. On that day, they are not suddenly perfectly healthy. Their lungs are not instantly healed. But something extremely important has happened. The direction of their future has changed. From that moment forward, every day is no longer feeding the old habit. It is slowly building a new life. This is the real meaning behind the idea of fixing your life in one day. It does not mean solving every problem immediately. It means something much more powerful. It means choosing a new direction. Most people underestimate how powerful a clear decision can be. They think change must start with motivation, but motivation often disappears. They think change must start with confidence, but confidence usually comes after action, not before. What actually changes lives is often much simpler. Clarity. The moment when you quietly say to yourself, I am not going back to the old version of my life. You may still struggle. You may still feel uncertain. But from that day on, your actions slowly begin aligning with that decision. And those small actions start accumulating. One small habit, 1 hour of learning, one uncomfortable step outside your comfort zone. At first, the progress is almost invisible. But over months and years, the difference becomes enormous. There is a quote that many people repeat, but few people truly understand. A year from now, you will wish you had started today. When people hear that sentence, they often think about goals. But the deeper meaning is about direction. 1 year from now, you may not regret that you did not completely change your life in a single day. What you might regret is something much simpler, that there was a day when you could have started and you did not. There is also another famous quote that I have always loved. It says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. This sentence is simple, but it carries a very deep truth. Many of us look back at the past and think, I wish I had started earlier. I wish I had learned this years ago. I wish I had not stopped trying. But the truth is, none of us can go back and change the past. We cannot return to 10 years ago and start sooner. We cannot rewrite the choices that have already happened. But here is the important part. We can always choose again, starting from this moment. You cannot change yesterday, but you can absolutely decide what direction your life will take from today forward. You can start learning a new skill. You can start building a better habit. You can start believing in your potential just a little more. And even if the change feels small today, it can become the seed of a completely different future. Because sometimes what we really need is not a perfect beginning. Sometimes we simply need the courage to begin now. So can someone fix their entire life in one day? Not exactly. But one day can change the direction of an entire life. And sometimes the most powerful turning point in a person's story is not a big event. It is a quiet moment when they say, I am ready to start. And maybe today could be that day for you. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to pause and reflect. What is one small decision you could make today that your future self will thank you for? Because sometimes the biggest change in life begins with a very small sentence. Today is the day I start.